The Spanish matador bullish about Chelsea's championship chances. Premier League World speaks to Cesc Fàbregas. A midfielder making his mark in Manchester. Morgan Schneiderlin on life at Old Trafford and the Louis van Gaal revolution. And the game's newest craze that works for all ages. We run the rule over walking football.
For Chelsea, May 2015 celebrations were starting to seem like a faded memory.
And the champions are pegged back at home. Now then, champions, what have you got? Still Aguero! Magnificent! And it's an early marker laid down at the end of a very difficult week for Mourinho and Chelsea. Palace in front!
Jose Mourinho cannot believe what he's seeing. And the champions beleaguered start to their title defence goes worse and worse and worse.
Having suffered as many defeats as they did in the whole of last season in their opening 6 games, something clearly hasn't been right at the bridge. It's been a far cry from those flag-waving days back in May.
We haven't been up to the standards we were last season. We've not played at our best for whatever reason. We can not drop any more points. We know it's a very competitive league, and we are sure that Man City will lose points and everyone that is at the top at the moment, but we cannot afford to lose more points.
Despite heavy criticism of their disruptive physical tactics, the victory over Arsenal at Stamford Bridge was evidence, if nothing else, of Chelsea and Mourinho's desire.
I've never seen a Chelsea player without hunger. First of all, because we are very competitive players, and secondly, because the manager would never allow us to lose that.
Indeed, Mourinho's at the centre of the storm over his tactics, but the situation was starting to look like being a test of his special abilities. Fàbregas, for one, believed it was never a lost cause.
We didn't start well, but that doesn't mean that this team who won 2 trophies last year, it's not good. Football is not that easy. It's not good to you, or one day you're fantastic and the other day you are useless. That doesn't work this way, even if some fans are nervous and they see it this way.
The team may not have become useless overnight, but the performances have not been characteristic of champions. Defending a title, however, is always seen as being harder than winning it.
Yeah, 100%, 100%, because all the teams, when they don't win, they strengthen their squad, they become better, they make signings, very expensive signings, they sign very good players, and of course this makes it even tougher, but we know we have the quality. It's just about how we show it.
Chelsea's uncharacteristic slow start has been attributed by some to a pre-season training regime tailored to producing the strong finish that appeared to be missing in the last campaign.
Last year we started very strong, and it's true that at the end, maybe for whatever reason it was, you know, we didn't finish as strong, you know. But we still managed to win the Premier League comfortably at the end, getting all the results we wanted. And where you have to end up at your best is from February. You know, you have to be at your best, because it's where all the titles are played for.
Fàbregas went in search of titles when he left Arsenal in 2011 to join Barcelona. 3 years later, the Spaniard returned in search of that Premier League crown.
It was a difficult decision for me to leave Barcelona. It was my home, you know, with everyone there, and I was really enjoying, but it was time for me to go for certain reasons, and Chelsea was the best option for me. Having been able to win everything in Spain, everything in England, everything with the national team, it makes me proud, because the Capital One Cup and the Premier League was missing, and I managed to win it last year.
Last weekend's win over Arsenal will have given the Blues a much-needed boost, but it remains to be seen if they've lost too much ground to mount a serious title challenge again. But the players haven't given up hope.
I just want to win. I want to lift trophies at the end of the season, and this is my aim, this is the team's aim, and that's what we will try to do till the end. We will fight for it very hard.
He's done it against Chelsea again. Jose Mourinho cannot believe what he's seeing. History for Stephen Naismith. And Surely, victory for Everton.
Scotsman Stephen Naismith added his name to a select list of footballers who've scored a hat-trick in the Premier League after coming off the bench during Everton's recent 3-1 demolition of the champions Chelsea. The 29-year-old became only the sixth substitute to score 3 in a Premier League match. We want to know this week if you can name the other 5 players to have achieved the same feat. Find out the answer a little later in the show.
Before I came to Manchester, I knew that I was coming to a massive club with other challenges, and I was ready for it. And I came. I was not surprised by anything because I was expecting, a lot of expectation around the club, and there's a lot of expectation in every game we play, and I embrace this challenge.
Barely 2 months into his Manchester United career, and Morgan Schneiderlin was back at St Mary's to face Southampton. The central midfielder spent 7 years on the South Coast and has fond memories of his former club.
Southampton, it's a club really important for me because they developed me as a player, and for me, it always will be a club in my heart. I'm very happy for them. I hope they will have a good season this year again, apart against us. But yeah, I'm sure they will do well. They have good people around the club, who know how to manage a football club. So it's the future is good for them as well.
United are currently second in the table, and the Frenchman has featured in all their opening league fixtures this season and is so far satisfied with the results.
We could have maybe have better performances, but the first few games, even if we went at the top, we won the games. After that, we played Newcastle. We should have won. The game was a bit of a better performance for the first half and the second half, but football is a strange thing. Sometimes you don't play well and you win. Sometimes you play well and you draw or lose. In between, we played in Champions League, and we won the game, and we put Manchester United where it should be, in the biggest stage in the world.
Traditionally known for their strong midfield, players such as Paul Scholes, Paul Ince, Roy Keane and Nicky Butt have been stern figures in the middle at Old Trafford. The Frenchman arrived in the summer as one of 6 centre midfielders in Louis van Gaal's side, determined to make it a force once more.
The midfield position, it's you can play in different formation and you can play in different things, so it depends how many players you play with, but it's important because it's a very important area of the team, and we relish the competitions. There's no bad feelings between each other. If one guy has to stay on the bench, he will encourage the others. We all drive for the same thing, is to win titles, and then there's so many games that we know that it's going to be rotations, so everyone needs to be ready. And for my part, of course, when you're a football player, for myself, for others, you want to play every single game, and but football is like that. Sometimes you'll be tired, sometimes you're injured, and others have to be ready, so that's what we're going to try to do. But we know that we have a strong squad all over the pitch, and in midfield particularly.
United spent over £100 million on new signings over the summer, but arguably their best business was securing the services of one of their most important players for another 4 years.
It was a wonderful save by De Gea.
What a stop.
Goodness me, how did he get to that? Victor Wanyama tries the pile driver, and it's saved by De Gea.
He's a professional, I think that the manager and himself always say that, he was always professional and he always did his job, and that's what he carries on to do. He always has a smile on his face, and there's no problem at all with David De Gea. He's a very good, or not one of the best goalkeepers in the world. It's a boost for the squad, we're really happy to have him. There's going to be a lot of competitions in this team for this position and for others, and then we just we are just happy to have him in the squad because he's a good lad around the dressing room and he's a very, very good player.
De Gea's first game back for the Reds also marked a new beginning for one of Schneiderlin's fellow countrymen.
Martial worrying Skirtle, getting away from Klein. Anthony Martial! Oh, wow, that's special! That is special!
He's a very good player. He's a player very fast, very technique, with a good understanding for the football. He's still young, but he will have a good he'll have a good years ahead of him. You know, he will learn around very good football players with the staff, with the manager. He will learn a bit more about the English football. It's never easy to come in a new culture when you don't speak the language and everything, but he has his head on his shoulder and he knows what to expect, and he cannot wait to kick on.
As Louis van Gaal continues to rebuild a title-winning side at Old Trafford, in Morgan Schneiderlin, they have a player hungry and ready for success.
For me, it was a dream to play for such a big club. I worked all my life for it, and then I knew that it was a lot of there's a lot of expectation for this football club. And like I said before, you know, I'm ready for the challenge, and it's just the start of the season, so I can't wait to kick on and to really show who I am.
The Aussie who loved life at Leeds and Liverpool, Harry Kewell, takes us down memory lane and talks about his new challenge at Watford. That's still to come. Walking, it's an everyday activity and the way thousands of us get to a match. Once there, though, we demand to see football played with pace and power.
That's Barkley! That's brilliant! Cradle's there, and so too is Wilson! What about that?
But now there's a version of the game available at a more sedate pace. Conceived in 2011, walking football aims to inspire the over-50s to start exercising again. A Barclays television advert highlighted it last year when Steve Rich, an ex-Sunday League player who hung up his boots at 25 after a car accident, began promoting the game.
I had to find something to find solace in, so I took up golf. And then about a year and a half ago, I was approached and he said, well, why don't you put on a walking football session here? I said, well, what's that, walking football? He said, well, it's aimed at the 50-year-olds, but you don't run. And I thought, wow, I can actually start playing football again.
With the help of Barclays Digital Eagles, Steve's ambition of turning the game into a nationwide sport could become a reality. An all-star game including 3 generations of England strikers, Geoff Hurst, Alan Shearer and Harry Kane, was a further boost.
No overhead height, and goals can be scored from any outfield position. Okay, any questions? Are we good to go? Are we excited? Yeah. Fantastic.
We're ready.
Steve has also been given assistance in developing a website that will allow him to grow a brand that has an obvious appeal to so many.
So it gave him a lot of advice and a lot of guidance in terms of, you know, making sure that he could build a community. So it wasn't just his team who were playing. It's, you know, there's hundreds of teams now across the country. So that's what we want to do in terms of, you know, being Digital Eagles. We want to support people so they can do things online and actually reach a wider community, which is exactly what he's done now with his website.
Last November, there were 125 clubs registered on my website, and to date, 434. So that's a huge growth rate.
Steve wants to take it nationwide and then Europe and then world. He's got some plans that he doesn't really discuss with me because I don't know much about it.
Despite the name, even the best discovered it's no walk in the park.
I think it'll be huge, I really do, particularly for guys and girls over 50 who want to keep active, get the heart rate going. As you can see, I'm sweating, and we've only been doing it for 15 minutes each way, so it's been fabulous, really enjoyed it.
Even though you try not to run, but you just can't help it, you know. But it's good, it's very good, I enjoyed it very much. It's a good exercise, and overall, it's a great sport to play, and the most important thing, it's football, and everybody loves football.
Kane, surely not. Kane!
What a tremendous turnout. I mean, these top players giving their time up to promote, you know, the spirit of the game and walking football. Immensely proud, you know. I can't thank Barclays Eagles enough.
A little earlier in the show, we asked if you could name the 5 substitutes other than Stephen Naismith to have scored a Premier League hat-trick. Arguably the league's most influential substitute was Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. The baby-faced assassin came to the rescue of Manchester United on numerous occasions, most famously grabbing the winner in the 1999 Champions League final. He scored 4 as a sub in February of that year in an 8-1 demolition of Nottingham Forest.
He scored 4. It's an extraordinary feat for Solskjaer.
Few people can forget the emotional scenes that marked Sir Alex Ferguson's retirement in May 2013. The Scot bowed out after an away day at West Brom, but it was a certain Romelu Lukaku who shared the headlines.
Lukaku! Quite remarkable. A second-half hat-trick for Romelu Lukaku.
Next is Emmanuel Adebayor. His 3 goals for Arsenal against Derby came in April 2008.
Adebayor! Classic Arsenal. Adebayor, goalkeeper out. There's the hat-trick.
Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank hit 4 hat-tricks in his 9 years in the Premier League, but only 1 after coming off the bench in Chelsea's 5-2 thumping of Wolves in 2004.
Offside surely. Flag stays down. Hasselbank, hat-trick. Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank, sent on as a second-half substitute, has won the game for Chelsea single-handed.
The last player on the list is Robert Earnshaw, seen as an impact substitute by Brian Robson in his time at West Brom. His first and only top-flight hat-trick came against Charlton Athletic on the 19th of March 2005.
That's the icing on the cake for the Baggies. He'll take home the match ball, but more importantly, his team will take home all 3 points. There's Kewell. That's a beauty. It's Kewell. He's going to go for goal. Is he going to go for goal or what?
Harry Kewell burst onto the scene with Leeds United aged 17 as an exciting winger, an experience the highs and lows top-flight football has to offer. Now he's passing on his knowledge to Watford's under-21s. So, what took him into the world of coaching?
I've done my badges, you know, and I wanted to see if I had that fire actually to take it to the next level. And I can remember doing, you know, my badges, and that first exam I had was defending crosses, and I loved it. You know, and it was just something that was, you know, the flame was nice and bright, and I just wanted to continue that.
Logic might suggest that those who reach the highest level as players are likely to be as successful in management. Don't suggest that to Harry, though.
Anyone ever thinks they can come from being a player straight away into being a manager at the very highest level, it's a lie. Because even just the simple things, you know, when I first came into the first week, my mind got blown away. It's not easy, but you feel at home. You know, I always say when I'm on the park, I actually feel like I'm in my living room. It's comfortable, you know, I'm relaxed. But all the stuff that you have to do off the park, you know, the reports, you know, of what people are doing, constant meetings, you know, making sure that the players are right. That stuff all came to me at the start, and it was like, whoa. You know, but I'm learning, you know, and it's something that if you did want to make the grade, you've got to understand.
As well as his administrative responsibilities, Kewell has to discover the best way to ensure his young charges reach their potential.
There's a big thing going around in football now that you've got to figure out what players need the arm round and what players need a good kick up the backside, but they got to want it. You know, they've got to want to go out there and take it for themselves, because if they don't, and I explain this, there's other people that are willing to take your job. You know, you've got young players that are playing in different clubs that would love to have the opportunity to come in here and take your jersey. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. because before you know it, if you don't make it, you know, you'll be moved on.
Having left his native Australia at a tender age, Kewell knows just what it takes for young footballers to fulfil their dreams and the hard work it requires.
They see footballers with all the pluses, you know, the scoring, the playing on the weekend, the houses, the money, the cars. But you don't see the sacrifice that player had to make, not just from, you know, 20 years old, but probably from the day he started playing football to when he got to that level, the stuff he had to do.
In 1996, the then Leeds manager Howard Wilkinson rewarded Kewell's hard work with his Premier League debut. It was time to sink or swim.
I remember sitting down there and he was going through the team and all that, and I was left wing. I wasn't nervous, I was excited, you know. I just thought, okay, well, this is my chance. I remember going back to my digs that day and, you know, making a phone call to my parents and going, I'm playing. And they were like, oh, fantastic, you know, make sure you go out there and do it.
Kewell was part of a golden generation at Leeds, ready to make its mark.
I grew up in a youth team that Paul Hart had, and, you know, from the get-go, you know, he knew he had a talented bunch, but like I said, we all knew how to play. If people tried to play us off the park, we'd play them off the park, because we were quick, we were fearless. You know, we had all these players that could play but weren't afraid to actually kick. But I even take it back to when we were training, no one would want to lose. So everyone would be like competing at the highest level, someone would leave it challenging, but that made us stronger for the weekend. So we were all ready to die for each other, and we all knew that if training was physical, hard, we'd be able to get out there and do it in the game.
That young Leeds team went on to set the Premier League alight. Their fantastic form saw them challenge for the title and culminated in a run to the Champions League semi-finals. Unfortunately for the Leeds faithful, the dream didn't last. Financial issues saw key players sold as they slid down the table. After scoring in a vital match at Highbury that saw Leeds escape relegation, it was time for Kewell to move on to the team he had cheered as a boy.
Liverpool was my team, obviously in England, and it goes back to when I was 13 years old. And literally 10 years from then, I actually got, you know, my dream to play for Liverpool came true. So dreams do come true, but the work that you have to do to get there is phenomenal. But it can be done.
Kewell has made it 3 and opened his Liverpool account.
I was actually quite lucky against Everton. You know, I scored quite a few goals against Everton, and especially at Goodison as well. So, and I mean, it was funny because, you know, I played a couple of games already for Liverpool and I hadn't scored, but it wasn't through lack of not, you know, trying. But you know, I always find that the opportunities will come when they come, and you know, it was a great way to get my Liverpool career off to a go, because once you get that first one, you know, the others followed. And you know, my first 6 months at Liverpool was fantastic. You know, 12 goals or something like that, and then obviously injuries hit, and you know, you can't help injuries.
A succession of injuries had a damaging effect on his career, demoralising at the time, but advantageous to the pragmatic Australian now.
That's one thing that I will be able to help them through, because my career has, even though it's had its very highs, it's had its very low moments as well. And when I do get players that do get into bad situations, that you can actually help them out, because as bad as the situation is, you can get through it. And as much as you don't feel like getting through it, you must get through it, because if you don't, it will eat you up and then you'll just disappear.
Some find it hard to replace the excitement of playing football in retirement, but not Harry.
It is a wonderful sport, and it is fantastic to be a part of it. And now, to be able to be a part of it now from the other side, and yes, to give that knowledge to the young players and to see them to do things. And when you actually see things in training or in a game and they do it, you get a buzz, you know. I mean, I get more excited now when they score. You know, when I used to score, it used to be fantastic, but now I get more excited when my team score. I was like, get in there, you know. It's just a buzz.
Professionally, I was at Blackburn the longest, but I was actually at Leeds from I was 14. So I was there for 10 years, really. So, you know, if it wasn't for Leeds United, I wouldn't be a footballer today. So it's, yeah, I do probably still class myself as a Leeds player.
Next week, ex-England goalkeeper Paul Robinson reflects on his ups and downs at Leeds Tottenham and Blackburn. Until then, from Marcus Buckland and me, Faker Others, goodbye.
The Spanish matador bullish about Chelsea's championship chances. Premier League World speaks to Cesc Fàbregas. A midfielder making his mark in Manchester. Morgan Schneiderlin on life at Old Trafford and the Louis van Gaal revolution.
Very difficult week for Mourinho and Chelsea. Palace in front.
Jose Mourinho cannot believe what he's seeing. And the champions beleaguered start to their title defence goes worse and worse and worse.
Having suffered as many defeats as they did in the whole of last season in their opening 6 games, something clearly hasn't been right at the Bridge. It's been a far cry from those flag-waving days back in May.
We haven't been up to the standards we were last season. We've not played at our best for whatever reason. We can not drop any more points. We know it's a very competitive league, and we are sure that Man City will lose points and everyone that is at the top at the moment, but we cannot afford to lose more points.
Despite heavy criticism of their disruptive physical tactics, the victory over Arsenal at Stamford Bridge
and the game's newest craze that works for all ages. We run the rule over walking football.
For Chelsea, May 2015 celebrations were starting to seem like a faded memory.
And the champions are pegged back at home. Now then, champions, what have you got? Still Aguero! Magnificent! And it's an early marker laid down at the end of a...
Which was evidence, if nothing else, of Chelsea and Mourinho's desire.
I've never seen a Chelsea player without hunger. First of all, because we are very competitive players, and secondly, because the manager would never allow us to lose that.
Indeed, Mourinho's at the centre of the storm over his tactics, but the situation was starting to look like being a test of his special abilities. Fàbregas, for one, believed it was never a lost cause.
We didn't start well.